This is the end game. Iran just threw down the gauntlet of what it demands that the U.S. commit to in order to get a ceasefire. This is what happens when you pick a fight against a country that invented chess, that's aided by two of the best chess-playing countries in the world. And what we're talking about is the conflict against Iran, where the U.S. picked a fight, had no strategy to win the fight, no strategy to exit the fight, and now Iran is turning the screws with the help of Russia and China in beginning the endgame. We knew that Donald Trump doesn't have the will or the brains to follow through on anything that he does. It's clear that Trump is lacking in brain power, willpower, and horsepower to get anything done. This is a perfect example of what happens when you elevate below mediocre white men who have never accomplished anything into the seats of power. You get giant disasters like what we're witnessing in the Middle East. The Trump regime has realized that they've bit off more than they can chew, and they've been using back channels to try to get a ceasefire. Iran's refused. Now, Iran has finally laid out the terms for a permanent ceasefire. And you know what those terms are? Their terms are first and foremost that they will end the war on their terms. And they will end this war when they are certain that nothing like this can ever happen again due to the actions of the U.S. and its proxy in the Middle East, Israel. Iran's foreign minister, Arghachi, said that in order for a ceasefire to have lasting impact, they're going to require that all U.S. presence in the Middle East be removed permanently. They're demanding that reparations need to be paid at the conclusion of the war. They're also demanding that all of the sanctions that have been issued against Iran since the 70s be removed, and that Iran be recognized as having legitimate sovereign rights to control its territory and its sphere of influence as they see fit. And they're demanding international guarantees against future aggression. And on top of that, Iran has laid out a 30, 60, and 90-day plan and a list of demands that the U.S. and Israel have to meet. Otherwise, they are committed to bringing both countries to their knees and continuing to attack regional allies of both regimes. This is what we call getting painted into a corner. The Trump regime entered into this war because, let's face it, the entire regime is packed with morons. And Bibi Netanyahu finally got a president that was stupid enough to engage in this war, and now the U.S. is stuck between a rock and a hard place. If they don't move forward and cave to the demands of the Iranian leadership, you're going to see an economic and financial collapse due to the Strait of Hormuz being shut down. And you're going to see the Middle East allies fall away because the U.S. cannot hold up its end of the bargain when it comes to the security umbrella that they guaranteed those Middle Eastern states as a condition of trade and military assistance. This is a no-win scenario that the Trump regime is dealing with. But when we zoom out from this situation and we ask the question, who does this benefit? There are two clear winners of this excursion that the Trump regime has entered into in the Middle East, and that's Russia and China. When we look at Russia in particular, this is the roadmap that Alexander Dugin, who is often described as Putin's brain, has set forward since the time the Cold War ended and Putin has been entrenched in power. Dugin's worldview is that the geopolitical world needs to return to the tripolar balance that existed in the 19th century. One where the U.S. has its sphere of influence in the Western Hemisphere. Russia has its main sphere of influence as Europe, and China has its main sphere of influence as Asia. When you look at that tripolar world's construction, what you're seeing in the Middle East and what Iran's demands point to is the ushering forward of that new tripolar global balance. Because if Iran's demands are met, the U.S. leaves the Middle East, which opens up the Middle East for influence from Russia and from China. Putin and Xi couldn't have hoped for better results because they were able to easily manipulate the American population and particularly the American president, who is an asset of Russia, to carry out their game plan. By crashing the dollar, by getting it involved in another foreign war, and being forced to evacuate the region, that creates the necessary power vacuum for both Russia and China to jump in. And Russia and China have gone ahead and backed Iran's demands for the ceasefire. What that tells you is that while Trump has been putting American military servicemen and women in the line of fire, he's been acting on the orders of Xi and on the orders of Putin to bring forward this tripolar world. And the way that Putin and Xi have accomplished this is by doing exactly what Kamala Harris said they would do during the 2024 election. They've played to Trump's ego and his lack of intelligence, and he's rolled over like an obedient little puppy dog looking for pets. And that's what you see today. And what you're going to see over the next couple of weeks is a retreat from the Middle East, while Trump claims a total victory. And in the interim, what you're going to witness is Russia and China escalate their influence into the region and also escalate conflict into their spheres of influence to consolidate power. You couldn't have planned a better end game in a game of chess than what you're seeing right now. And it was made extremely easy thanks to the stupidity of the American public in electing this guy again and the imbecilic nature of the entire regime. The regime is staffed by unqualified morons who've been completely manipulated and outflanked by any and every adversary that we can think of on the global stage. So the question that I have for everybody after seeing this play out, are we great yet? Because to me, it looks like a complete disaster.